starting. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Racial Love, where we passionately debate, explore, and review topics about religion, history, and current events. Today we have Helen from
Hello.
Free Thinker Fireside. Hey, hey. So,
Hello. Hi, AJ. Thank you so much for having me on. Hi, Internet.
yay. Everybody, hello.
Hello.
So, today is going to be interesting, right? Because we're going to talk about trauma. And sadly, it's part of our human condition. Right? We know everybody goes
Mhm.
through trauma. Um, the wounds of trauma can run really, really deep. And unlike physical wounds, you can't see them, they're invisible to the naked eye. But things like childhood trauma, they directly affect who you become as an adult. They dictate our relationships, how we express love, they affect how we think, how we see the
Mhm.
world, right? And how we treat not just ourselves but other people. And we're gonna figure out what it does to the body and the brain. And before we do that, let's like introduce you a little bit more detailed. So where can people find you? Because I've been on your show and stuff. I'm sure everybody watching knows who you are.
All right.
But tell
Well,
us a little bit.
for those of you that may not know who I am, my name is Helen, also known as House Bells. I run a channel called Free Thinkers Fireside, where we put the human and humanist one cozy chat at a time. And basically, the idea with my channel is that I have people come on. I just kind of interview them. I used to do that when I volunteered for recovering from religion, and now I do it as part of what I do. Um, on my own channel. So, if you would like to come on, because I'm always looking for guests, or you think I should have someone on, please email me at freethinker, drop the S, fireside at gmail.com. You can email me there, or if you're on my Facebook, just slide into my DMs. Somebody will get a hold of me somehow. So, so that's basically like tomorrow. Mandisa Thomas is going to be on my show. I usually have a 7 p.m. on Thursdays Eastern time. I've been also doing shows if I have a couple extra times, like on Tuesdays as well. Anywho, tomorrow Mandisa Thomas is going to be on. We're going to talk about Black non-believers and when critical thinking can be helpful or harmful in the secular community. So we're going to talk about that.
That's cool. That should
Yeah.
be an interesting talk. I mean, how critical thinking can be harmful even in our community. Maybe
Mhm.
lack of it, for sure.
Right, but there's also
I-
issues of people that think they are being critical. And we're going to talk about like how
oh,
to the difference between being critical and which we're going to talk a little bit about tonight. Saying you think you're being critical, but it might be favoritism or you're not aware of your own biases
biases. Yeah,
and things like that. So, because we're all susceptible to it, so we're going to have a conversation about that.
that's fair. I'll watch it. Love Mandisa. She's really cool. So you and I got into some trouble recently. Okay, not good trouble, good trouble.
I was like, what? I'm like, what?
Because you no 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 no. Because you asked me if I wanted to do a fundraiser for Amber, Kyle, and Sadie, and so I was like, heck yeah. It was hectic. It was hectic, but I would say it was
But
absolutely
we
worth it.
divided and conquered. So I feel like you got once I figured out what I was doing afterwards, it was all smooth sailing. You were emceeing. So I ended up just keeping an eye on the time and hanging out with our guests. So
I know. You got to hang out backstage
I did.
with the cool people too, so that's fun. That's always fun. And how much did we raise?
So
1,500,
we
right?
raised $1,510. So the fundraiser is still up. So we are still taking donations. I'm going to end it on Halloween. The only thing is, though, is that because GoFundMe takes a cut, it takes 2.9% of any donation you give to it. Now we're technically we do have 1,500, but GoFundMe took some of that. I want to give each of our the people that we raise money for $500. I think $500. That's 2 weeks worth of groceries. That's medication bills. That is making sure you keep your lights on for the month. You have water. The garbage pickup.
Basics.
That's what this money's going for. Cancer treatment. That's what this money's going through. Medical bills.
No.
So if anybody in your audience has a few extra dollars to throw our way, I think we need like $60 to cover the expenses.
fees. Yeah.
So fun. So this way everybody's getting $500. So if you got an extra $5 that you can throw our way, that'd be really great. I'm going to put a link for the fundraiser in the chat. No, I'm not.
Oh yeah.
Share. Share. Copy.
You should be able to do that.
Now I can. No, it won't let me do it because I'm going to give it to you.
Let's see if it works.
There.
Oh, just send it in the private. We'll post
I did that.
it.
I did
Right
that.
now.
So AJ is going to put it in her chat, and you're going to click on it, and you're going to give us $5.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to do. Because you're all bottom bitches. You're going to do what I tell you to do. You're going to be a good, generous person by being a bottom bitch. That's how this works.
There we go. And we can put it at the bottom. There we go. We can keep it right there. And I also copied it into the chat.
Yeah. Cool. So if you guys can, just throw a couple extra dollars our way, that'd be really great. Just so we can, end the week on a good note, and they give $500 and everybody's happy, and yay. So that's what we did.
It sucks that people like the fellow community members that we raise funds for are now going to have the extra weight of having their SNAP benefits taken away, right? So this is why we do this, because they need basics, extremely basic things. Put food in the refrigerator, keep the lights on, stuff like that, stay warm. So yeah, if anybody can help, anything, literally any amount helps. Unfortunately, GoFundMe takes 30 cents out of each donation. So if you got $5, awesome.
Also, as well, I want to remind people that Ember and Kyle, and I think City all have GoFundMes. So I contribute to Ember's every month. I contribute $20. Right now I can. Don't know how long it's gonna last, but I can right now. So there, because this doesn't stop after, it's not like they get $500 and then everything's yay, it's fine. They still need help. And I would say instead of going to Starbucks, you could just give $5 to somebody in our community that needs it. And I obviously I do not want people to give money if they need it. That's not what we're saying. But if you have extra money that you could go to Starbucks and you can take that $5 and give to, some people in our community that really do need it. That's the point. $20. I give $20 because that's what I can afford, each week to give, but each month, sorry. But it's hard, because things are expensive and we're losing, and we're living in the dystopia. So, people are losing their ability to pay for things like their medical bills and things like that. So,
yeah, there was this post recently that I saw something we are all one medical bill away from, being homeless or something like that. It's all of us are living paycheck to paycheck, while Mr. Pumpkin Man builds his gold plated ballroom. But
Well,
yeah,
yeah, duh. Listen, people can't have basic medical care, but like this, 250 million bucks, that we could have to
yeah,
take
but he
care of
needs it.
like so many people, feed so many people. But no, we can't do that. We can't have people eat. Come on.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah.
But
If you click the link, and you can just click the link to the fundraiser, it will take you to where to give your monies,
yeah, it's
and
super
then the
quick.
money goes to
Like,
GoFundMe.
um, if you already have like your PayPal or
Yeah,
something set up on your computer, it will. Once you log in, no, you don't even have to log in, right? You can do it as a guest. I
you can
did
do
it
it
as
as
a
a guest.
guest.
Yeah,
I
they'll
didn't
just
need to
ask for
log
your
in or
payment.
anything.
Like they'll ask for your credit card or debit card,
Yeah,
number. Just like you're
card
making
or
it's just like
PayPal.
you're making any online payment.
Yeah, it's just like super quick. And thank you so much, Tucker. I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Tucker. That's a big help.
Yeah. So let's get into the topic. All right, we're here to talk about trauma, which we
Right, but
are
this is
going
how we
through.
get through trauma, is being helpful and kind to others. So that's how
Yeah,
you do it.
yeah, exactly. So the first thing I want to say is a warning. All right, just a reminder that neither of us are experts, and we are not here to give people diagnoses or treatments. We're just sharing our experiences, All right. So, like, if you're watching and you have some deep traumas, or while watching the show, you realize that you need more help, you can reach out to Recovering from Religion. Is a really good place to start, right? Um, which you actually used to volunteer for Recovering from Religion. What
Yep,
did you
you
do
can
there?
also
Like,
go to, if you need a therapist, seculartherapy.org. I'm going to put a link in the chat. If you need a therapist, you should, like, I'm very well versed in trauma. I'm very
yeah, yeah,
educated on it, but I am not an expert. So you should definitely go see people that are
right,
trained to
exactly.
actually help people with their trauma. And so, and a lot of therapists can work in, they're licensed in several states. So, and it's a matter of just matching. Like, I always say, like, find a therapist is like dating, because it is.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. You gotta find the right one.
you have to find the right person.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like you gotta have good chemistry with your therapist, because otherwise, yeah, it's
Yeah,
you're not gonna look
I've been with my
forward to it.
current therapist 2 years, and we have a really good relationship. I love her. She's fantastic. I'm like, you're my maintenance. You're my maintenance.
Love it, love it. Yeah, I mean, because you gotta do the work when there's such deep traumas that we have, especially from childhood. It takes a lot longer to heal those. Like I would say that so many people that we meet live with unprocessed traumas, and they think that they can
Mhm.
just just put it in the back burner, block it out. I don't need to deal with it right now. If I don't see it, it's not there. But that's not how it works. Okay, so we have to remember that trauma is not just like a physical thing. Like, because when people think of trauma, the word trauma, they're like, oh, you are, I don't know, in a car accident, or somebody like beat you up. Sure, that is definitely trauma. But you can also have psychological traumas, people abusing you, gaslighting you, putting you down, right? Treating you like crap. Those are distressing or disturbing events that can have a really big impact, negative impact on
Right.
your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health, your social well-being. So, there was actually this really good video I found. Let me see if I pull it up, put this thing up. It's short. But are you familiar with Gabor Mate?
No. Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. All right. He is a doctor, a psychiatrist, really, really well versed in trauma, childhood trauma, and addiction, ADHD. I love watching this stuff. She's so smart.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's- oh, the whole thing.
You always trauma means a wound. That's the literal
You can hear it, right?
I get.
meaning of the word. It's a Greek word for wounding. So trauma is a psychological wound that you sustain, and it behaves like a wound. So on the one hand, a wound, if it's very raw, if you touch it, it just really hurts. So if I have a wound around not being wanted, then decades later, if anything reminds me of that, it hurts as much as it did when I originally incurred the wound. The other thing that happens to wounds is that they scar over. And scar tissue has certain characteristics. It's thick, it has no nerve endings, so there's no feeling in it. So people traumatized disconnected from their feelings. Scar tissue is rigid, it's not flexible. So when something happens, we tend to react in typical, stereotypical, predictable, dysfunctional ways. And scar tissue doesn't grow like healthy flesh. So people who are traumatized tend to be stuck in emotional states that characterized their development when they were traumatized. Trauma means a wound. That's the literal.
I really like that description.
Mm.
Um, I don't know. It has a lot to cover there. As far as the wound, I feel like that's a really good way to put it, to compare it to like a physical scar, because
Hmm.
you can never get rid of a trauma. You can handle
Right.
it. You can deal with it. You can get to the therapy, the coping mechanisms, but it's always still gonna be there. Oh,
And it's
Cynthia.
nice in there. And that's the thing about like the way that trauma and it manifests in ways that we don't always know about. And also we can even know about it, but our brains will default. Um, I tend to be like for one of like because of the traumas that I experienced when I was growing up, I'm very defensive. And when I'm in an emotional state, I tend to get very reflexive and want to people please, and I and I get very reactionary, and like people that I live with, like my husband, will be like, "You're having a trauma response," because he knows it. Like he's like, "I'm not." He's like, "You're safe. I'm not saying anything. I was just, that's going to harm you, and because he knows that, he'll like call me on that, but that's because we have a trust relationship and he knows. But like this is stuff like I've dealt with a lot of my trauma, and this is still something that I still reflexively do. And I've talked to my therapist about it, and they said like it like that brain connection is there, and you're aware of it and you know what you're doing, but and when you're in the moment and when you're in an emotional state, you're aroused and you don't have the ability to realize that, oh, I'm like in the moment, like I'm going to stop myself from having the trauma response. Like that's not how it works.
Yeah, I know. And recently, you shared with me what some of your traumas were as a teenager, and then there was a situation that we were dealing with that brought that back up to you, and it's like you have dealt with it, but at the same time, it can still bring up such raw emotions and raw feelings of that trauma, even if you've dealt with it. So, uh, oh,
Yeah, and I
native
think that's
atheist asking, "Who are
I need
you?"
it. It's house bells. Hi.
House spells, also
Each
known
of the name.
as Free Thinker Fireside,
Yep.
Helen.
Yep. House bells. Unicorn menace.
What are you?
Queer unicorn menace.
The
Um,
unicorn man is
yeah,
right.
yeah, and that's the thing, like I have dealt with a lot of what I went through, but the thing is that the emotions are still going to get stirred up. And also too, especially when you start shifting and getting older and your own brain changes because of like hormone levels and other things that happen, as as you age. But also too, this happens just throughout your life. Your brain will change. um yes, like we say like, oh, the personality is formed by age 8. Yes, but the thing is though, as you go through your life, your brain is going to change. Your core personality things kind of remain the same, but like, for example, I was a believer. I'm no longer a believer. My brain has changed, and that happened as an adult. So but it takes longer. Like when children are young, their brains are like little sponges, and they absorb, and the
True.
trauma gets absorbed as well. Like if it's something happens before the age of 8, and that can form certain things about their personality. This can be as simple as being left at the grocery store and thinking you're and not seeing a parent. Your parents in another aisle. Child thinks they've been abandoned. That's a
Right.
trauma. It's not a repetitive trauma, but it's still making that change in that brain, like the first time that that child feels unsafe. And that can form certain personality patterns as the child ages. Now, if they have a good responsive parent that responds in a healthy way, like, but I was just, next aisle over, and, like, I would never leave you, blah, blah, blah. And they get that reinforcement, it's not going to make such an impact. But if the parent is flippant, doesn't address their child's emotional needs, and call it what it's like. I'm sorry that you were scared. I didn't mean to scare you. I was just in the next aisle. You're safe. You're okay. I would never leave you. And the child is able to adjust to that discomfort. It's a good thing, because that's just life. That is preparing that child for life. You will be uncomfortable, and you have to adjust. But if the child constantly feels abandoned, the parent isn't, maybe they're avoidant,
Yeah.
and they are neglectful, and because of their own traumas. And they don't know how to, and they're not aware of their own emotional shortcomings. They're going to project that onto their children, and they're like, well, this is the way I was raised, so this must be correct. And then that child grows up and they have, they're conflict avoidant. They have issues of forming emotional intimacy, or they can become very clingy, and that can develop. And this can develop from anything from like personality disorders to conflict resolution to all types of problems, just from that repeated feeling of abandonment. I am not safe. The people in my life are going to leave me. I cannot trust my parents. And this can start at 2. So we're talking about like, before you even have language, this is already, forming, that feeling of anxiety, and I think that,
That gets wired in your
yeah,
brain.
that gets
Yeah.
wired in. And if people are, if you raise, like, you go into adulthood and your adolescence, and, and your body will change and shift, your brain changes and shifts, that the way that these traumas manifest may not be even in ways that you even thought of. People usually think of
Right.
PTSD, which is, or complex PTSD. Yes, those are and we tend to think about like when people go through like extreme forms of trauma, or like combat situations, or extreme, SA, or other forms of like physical abuse or whatever. But it can also be done in ways that you're not even aware of, like abandonment. Like no one's
Yeah.
physically hurting you, bombs aren't going off around you, but that emotional wound that is taught over and over again, it tends to leave that impact.
Yeah. Another one is kids whose parents are not emotionally available, or who are sort of emotionally abusive, and make them feel that they're not good enough. They can never meet their parents' um, not needs, but requirements, right? Like if a parent wants a child to be this or that, and the child just cannot meet that, they're going to feel that they are just not good enough for anybody, not just for their parents. And so going into adulthood, this person is going to be a people pleaser, right? They're going to do
Right.
anything to please all of their relationships, their friendships, their romantic partners. And that is very unhealthy. That is a very unhealthy trauma response, because it can lead to this person doing things that they don't really want to do, just to please everybody else.
Right.
So it's Yeah, so it's dangerous. Like, and we are talking about things that happen to us, like you said, before we develop language, before we develop a proper way to communicate these issues that we're having, or even before we are able to record memories. Right? This the video that I showed earlier, the Dr. Gabor Mate, he always shares.
Mm.
His mom was a Jewish, right, during the Holocaust, and so she had him as a baby, but to hand him to a neighbor because she knew that they were coming for her. And she was like,
Mhm.
if they come for me, they're going to take the baby. So she gave
Mhm.
him away to a neighbor that wasn't Jewish, that was willing to take him.
Mhm.
And so he shares this story, and he talks about how that trauma affected him throughout his
Mhm.
entire life. And he was 1 year old when that happened. So, like, he doesn't have memories of it, but he knows that his body physically holds onto that abandonment, that trauma, even though his mom didn't want to abandon him, right? Like,
Right.
he still perceived the abandonment as abandonment because
Yeah,
that's
because when you're a child, you don't know, like your child, your parents trying to save your life. Like you just know
right.
that
You
your
don't know the
parent has
whole
left you, like just
story.
left you.
Yeah, you can't reason. Oh, she left me with them because blah blah blah. No, like you 1 year old, you can't really do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's awful. Um, but so he has ADHD, and I think that was one of the reasons he talks about trauma so much, because of the connection between very 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 early childhood trauma, like before the age of 3, and
Mm-hmm.
conditions like ADHD, OCD, and other which are,
Neurodivergent or yeah.
yeah, they are
Yeah.
partly genetic, obviously, but a lot of most genetic um, conditions have to have a trigger in order for your body to sort of
Right.
express that genetic condition. So yeah,
Right.
so he
The
talks
light
about
switch
how,
either gets it stays
yeah,
off or it gets turned on. That
right,
like that's what I've always thought of it as just that genetic light switch being flipped on. You know.
yeah, it's called epigenetics. Yeah, it's basically
Yeah.
it on and off. It can happen with health conditions as well.
Yeah.
For me, when I moved to the US, that was my trigger, and it triggered autoimmune issues. I was soon after that I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, celiac disease, which are both autoimmune conditions. So it was like the doctors were like, "Well, you just had a really huge shift in your life. Like, you moved from a completely different country to like a whole
Here.
different culture."
Yeah.
The culture shock was real. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah,
You
but
know
he
what's funny? When you became an American citizen, I didn't realize how long you had been here. So I was like, why? I was like, girl, why? And then you're like, no, I've been here for like 15 years. I'm like, okay. Like
Oh
whenever I was,
yeah,
yeah,
no,
I was
I
like,
was
okay, you're adapted to American culture. Otherwise, I was like, no, don't come here. If somebody was
I
like, I want to
know.
be in the United States now, I'd be like, no, motherfuckers, you gotta stay where you.
Right, yeah. My mom actually often says that she regrets bringing us here because of how shit turned out. But I'm like, I don't
That's
know.
how I
I'm
feel about moving to
okay.
Florida. Like when I moved down here, it was a very democratic state. It was very chill. And I've been down here 20 years and I'm like, fuck. Like my plant, like the cool, like it's such a beautiful place to live, but also shitty.
Also
Politics are
shitty for
shitty.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Right.
anyway, so let's watch your video.
Native asked if I'm a Texas girl. Yeah, I live in Texas right now. Yeah.
Oh, Nina Base is in
And
Oklahoma. Oh, we're in the trifecta of bad. Like, we're
oh,
in
there we go.
we're in the
I,
fascist Bermuda Triangle.
you are, yeah. Okay, I gotta say it. Excuse you.
Okay.
Date is here.
Mm.
I don't know if you've seen his video. I love it. He's like, excuse me. That's his thing. Um, but anyway, so we were talking about this childhood traumas, and so another thing that these abandonment issues can lead to, and the child being put down and being made to feel unworthy, is, as an adult, first of all, people pleaser, right? Second of all,
Mm-hmm.
not saying what you want, not expressing your needs,
Mm-hmm.
always wanting to meet everybody else's needs first. That is a really unhealthy trauma response that people can have from
Mm-hmm.
all of this childhood. Yeah, it is wild how much our brains are wired that early on in life. And this was it. Okay, to be honest, I wasn't super familiar with trauma um, when I first moved here. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
I had traumas, but it wasn't something that I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to therapy and stuff like. And I was like, well, maybe I should go to therapy. And it started into me looking into my kid having OCD and autism and like learning so much about the way our adulthood is shaped by our childhood. And now it all makes sense. Now it all makes sense. So
Yeah, and all you're like, oh, okay. Like now I see the pattern.
I know, and like talking to my very last therapist, sometimes I will bring stuff up, or she will ask things about my childhood, and I will just like start bawling uncontrollably, and like I didn't even realize how deeply that wound was still there. So even though I had like covered it up, put it in the back, ignored it, it was still there.
Yeah,
So
it's like you can't bury you can't bury that shit. You can only bury it for so long, but it will manifest in ways that isn't going to be good. If you don't know what your triggers are and you don't know how it's going to manifest, because it's going to, guys, like it will. It's not gonna be great, and it's gonna be kind of shitty for everybody around you, but it will manifest. And
right,
even stuff
yeah,
you thought you dealt with will manifest, and then you're like, oh, that behavior is because of that, and then you're like, fuck. Like, I thought I dealt with this. No, you didn't. You thought you did.
I know.
Because also too, like, as you change, the brain changes, and the things that, like for example, like I didn't go through like an angry atheist stage. Like, I was just like, oh, because like my experiences with like religion within my family were not like, I didn't, like, my parents still loved me regardless, and they were very open-minded. We had very like, let me have a diverse group of friends and all that type of stuff growing up. But the messaging I got about being a woman and a queer person, like, rooted in my brains. And I was at a recovering from a religion excursion, and Cara was there. Love them for this. I started bawling my eyes out because all
I
that
know.
stuff just started bubbling to the surface as we were talking about religious trauma and being a queer person, and being around other queer people that were talking about that experience brought all that up. And
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
stuff that I thought that wouldn't affect me. And then my brain's like, nope, this kind of fucked with you. So
Yeah, Fortune Dots had a good thought that it said that what we were talking about earlier,
yeah.
um, about children not feeling like they're enough. He said it also has the potential to lead an individual to have more acceptance for abuse against them. I
Mm-hmm.
think I don't know what the
Domestic
D
abuse.
is about. Okay, domestic
Domestic.
abuse. Gotcha. And creates the "it's not a big deal" attitude.
Right.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. You put up with it because, well, first of all, a lot of narcissists target people who have trauma because they're a lot easier to manipulate. Um,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and so it leads to that sense of, okay, I will put up with it because I love this person, and then this person makes you feel like, well, you did something wrong, or I am the victim, even though they were the ones that
Right.
caused you the abuse. So it goes into a cycle of accepting abuse and yeah, not doing anything about it.
And I
So
think
sort
I
of
think that's like my ex-husband, he was not a bad person, but he had but there was some abusive tendencies in it, because one, he's autistic, and two, he grew up in like an alcoholic family. So he and didn't have any, and like, okay, so you're already disconnected from your emotions having like autism, and then you have trauma. okay, that's going to look really weird to someone that, you know, from like myself that has ADHD, and I have perceived rejection dysphoria. That's fun, everybody. That's
Oh
great. And when you're
yeah.
traumatized, oh boy. And so I can look back on that relationship and go, the abuse wasn't it was psychological, but also was because he had attachment issues. He didn't understand, like, you know, and it manifested in weird ways. Once, like, it wasn't healthy, but also we were young, and neither one of us were like versed on this type of stuff, but we were able to remain friends. It wasn't like it was so abusive that this person wasn't healthy for me to maintain, like leaving my children with. You know, like I had no problem like him taking majority of the parenting responsibility because he's a really good dad. But as far as interpersonal relationships, not the best. Like he wasn't, you know, wasn't a good person for me. But knowing that now, but when you're going through it at the time, you're just like, this person is like a prick. You know, why isn't he meeting my needs?
What do you? Why do you think that so many women, especially, but this does happen to men as well, obviously. But why do you think so many women stay in an abusive relationship for so long?
I think that it's part of it, the way that we're socialized. We're socialized to be pleasing. We're taught to not have a voice. And this could be like like your parents could be like very progressive, you know, people, but when you're out in the world, when you realize that you have to please people to get what you want, because we live in a society that favors cis straight white guys, when you're the outsider, one, you learn to please. And also too, I think also too, because of people, the way that people, women especially, that they don't even know they're being abused. Like they think of abuse as like physical abuse, like, you know, like, you know, your partner's beating you. That's not always abuse. Abuse could be like you're taught that men should handle the finances, because like if a man makes more money, obviously, like there's this weird association somehow, like if someone's making more money than you, then they're better with finances. I don't know how those two things got connected, because they're two separate things. Because like if you make good money, that
Right.
means you got into a position that is paying you more money. That doesn't mean like, you know, you're like my dad made more, like had his own business, but my mom did all of the family finances. Like
Okay,
that was
that's
her
good.
job, because she was, and my dad had ADHD. And he even said like, your mother's better at that. I just let her do it. You know? So again, I don't know how these two things got correlated, but they did, you know? So that's another thing. And, yeah, as, our friend
What?
Scott pointed out, my wife handles art because she's better at it.
But
Me and my
he's a
husband,
math professor. What? What sorcery is this?
the sorcery, it was her evil vagina magic that made him think that she was
Clearly.
better at math. Now, me and my husband both have ADHD, so we handle our own finance. Like what are you going to pay? Like that's how we handle it, rather than like
Okay.
us giving each other money, because we both have ADHD. We have to like manage ourselves, and it's, if one of us has to manage like the finances, if it was just up to one person, nothing would get done. But if you just give us a little bit of what we have to focus on, it works out great. But I think that that's one of the reasons that we're taught that there's a man that's supposed to take care of blah blah. You know, there's a man that's supposed to, like, you know, be able to mow the lawn. And that messaging is not always conscious. Like it just like what you pick up in society, you know. And even though, I mean, like, and even like, you know, in the 2000s, tens, with this like this pop feminism shit, like, you know, like you want to be like a girl boss, and then like the MLM people, like, you know, did all the, you know, Yeah, exactly, exactly, Angier.
I love that. That's so
Perfect.
funny. No, but I think
that is exactly what happens. At least you're. Thank you.
right.
She knows me. Angier knows me well enough. It's like Helen and her husband are fucking up their finances together.
No, right. No, what you were just talking about really makes sense, and I think that one of the reasons could be
Oh,
that
good. I made sense.
women.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah. No, I was gonna say that I think one of the reasons why women stay in abusive relationships could also be because of the societal norms that are put
Yeah.
out there, which are often religious based, right? Like man and woman, and the man is the head of the house, and God is the head of the entire humanity,
Yeah,
etc.
because
But
if it's a watery womb, AJ, you can't do things because you have a womb, uterus, and it
yeah,
moves around.
right. But I think that women confuse that idea of dominance. They can't separate the idea of dominance from abuse. Like they think the dominance is fine, um and the abuse is dominance. Does that make sense? I don't think I am making
No,
sense right
no,
now.
no, it does because because thinking of it this way, like there's certain even those of us that have a very progressive mindset, like we'll default into like some sort of thinking pattern where like a man should have like he should be able to work and he should be able to do this and blah blah. That's like I want you to be responsible, I think, and also like I hope you're working because like if we're gonna be in a relationship, like, and I'm talking about like if I'm gonna have like a life partner like live in my home or gonna contribute to the relationship in some kind. Because like we also know that because everybody has to show a certain level of responsibility and it doesn't have to be financial. I think that's important to understand. Like for example, to my friends, she is the breadwinner and he stays home and raises the children because
Okay,
she makes more
then
money.
yeah,
Yeah.
it
And
works.
I always tease him. I'm like, was your masculinity threatened? Like, because you're like, I technically make more money than my husband. I think it's all a bunch of fucking bull. And and but the thing is though, in certain like, in the current American culture, even though we want women to like, this sort of like girl boss type of bullshit is like, we're still at a man standard. Like, if a person of color gets like, some kind of, they start making, more money, a woman, whatever, pick a minority group, just pick one. If somehow, or, someone that, or has a disability, and they somehow like, beat the odds, it is like because it's baked into the system. It's baked into the system that you said, like, this is the cis straight white guy that's making like $100,000 a year. That's the person you want to be. You can't decide for yourself what for your life, what achievement, you want, because and it's default. It's in our media. It's in the way that we communicate with each other. It's the way that we like, we say like smash the patriarchy. The reason why we say that is because those though the system teaches us that the patriarchy is correct.
It does.
And
Yeah.
and that's why, and I think for someone that haven't dissected that and looked at it as a systematic problem rather than a individual, because we tend to blame the victim when we're talking about abuse. The abuse people are experiencing may not be physical. It could be mental. It could be emotional. It could be, financial. It doesn't have to be like he's beating you. It could be like my ex-husband, like, and I'm not saying this was okay, but he used my bisexuality against me. We had this conversation. It wasn't because, you know, um, he didn't like queer people. He just didn't understand, but he thought that like my bisexuality was supposed to serve him rather than it being my own because society had
Wow.
taught him that. You met in the, and it's not, and I don't think he has those feelings anymore. But at the time we got together, 20 years ago, 20 plus years ago, that was the
Yeah.
attitude, in the 2000s.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
not saying it's right. It was fucked up, but at least I can look back at that and go, I know what that is. But if you're not well versed in trauma and you haven't done the work, you don't know that's what that is.
Yeah, so I was trying to see what Miss Non Sequitur has said, because she said, "Oh, this was an inappropriate comment." That she
I
didn't
love
even realize what
you.
topic we were talking about. Oh, you're good. You're good. Thank you for
No,
being here.
no. Oh, sweetheart. I love you.
Yeah,
Eli, oh my God, all our friends are here. We have the best people.
all of our people are here listening to us ramble.
Thank you for listening to us to talk about trauma.
Right. So
Well,
speaking
I'm
of
dressed
that,
as a unicorn.
exactly.
I love the I just love the absurdity
Traumatized,
of it. I'm a
traumatized
traumatized
unicorns are the
unicorn.
best. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly.
My
A
name is
traumatized
Tiffany, the
unicorn. It's
traumatized
perfect.
unicorn.
I love it. I love it. So, okay, there's this term that people sometimes misuse, and I know we misuse it as well. Okay,
Mhm.
you and I, trauma bonding. This is really when somebody who is being traumatized by somebody else bonds with the person that is that is abusing them. However, you and I have used it as a jokingly, because we've shared traumas with each other. We've gone through the same traumas, unfortunately,
Right. Yeah,
once.
that was so much fun.
So, you know, we had this unfortunate experience of being hurt by women. It can be women that falsely accuse men, right? And in the process
Right.
of it, hurt other women, because this hurts the cause that you were just talking about, right? Believe the victim, believe the woman, or the Me Too movement. Like, why do you think women do that? Like, I know it's a loaded question, okay? Do you think that they don't realize it, that they're harming themselves, other people? Is it the patriarchy that is so deeply ingrained even in women?
Well, so okay, so I'm not saying this is right, and I'm not saying that like I haven't done any kind of quantitative study on this, but this is just a perspective that I have.
Oh yeah,
As
open.
someone that's just well versed on, has like studied trauma. Like I don't know, like I study as a hobby. That's what I do, guys. I look up psychology studies and read a bunch of this shit. But I think it is like what happens on the internal happens in the external. So if you're living in a society that says that like we're like, and especially women, and especially in like minority groups, and this happens with the in sociology, like people, you tend to lean on the communities and the people that can relate to you. You and I can relate to each other. Like we joke around that we do trauma bonding, but we're just talking about like we talked about our traumas and we bonded over that because there's an understanding. Trauma bonding is like, I recognize that you're traumatized. I'm going, and this isn't conscious. This isn't, but you become codependent because you're relating, like the boundaries aren't there with the trauma bonding. Like you and I joke around about it, but like we have boundaries because we're friends.
Oh
People that
yeah.
are doing trauma bonding, they don't have the boundaries aren't in place,
That's
of
true.
like how much we share, because also like it will manifest in really unhealthy behaviors. And I think for women, we're kind of taught that I was talking before about like the subconscious, messaging that we get. It can manifest in like these really weird ways because in a society, we're taught, for example, believe all women. Okay, because we usually aren't. There's, SA kids sitting in police, in police lockers all over the United States that in evidence that have not been processed, and people don't get brought to justice. And
Yep.
even when they do, sometimes they get off. Fuck you, P Diddy. Anyway, but like that's that's the reality. So I think there's this default we have of wanting like if a woman's going to and you know what? I'm not going to say woman. I'm just going to say if a person brings an essay accusation forward, our default is go, well, no one would lie about this. Because why
Right.
would you?
Right.
It's like the worst thing to lie about, you know?
Yeah.
So when we find out the opposite happened, it's not just a betrayal to women, it's betrayal to anyone that's been essayed. Because, like, in any gender, like, when that happens, there's usually blame put on the victim. And when you find out that that
That
person
wasn't the case.
that
Yeah.
that wasn't the case, you're like, oh,
Like the
that
victim becomes,
the
the
perpetrator.
perpetrator.
Yeah,
And you're like, you're
and
left.
and
Yeah.
that's a whole different level of uh that is
Betrayal.
a
And
very
yeah.
ugly web that you have to unweave, because you have to look at why is this happening, and it can be triggering for some people, but because we're looking at it as a system, because somewhere along that line that woman learned, if or person that that was sexually assaulted, that this group is not safe. It happens with trans people, it happens with gay men, like pick a poison. It happens with people of color. Pick a poison. This person is not safe. And the bias of us that flips to, oh, I have to believe this person, even though I know I don't, like, it doesn't sit right, but it has to be, because our default is like, it has to be, because why would anyone lie about something so fucked up?
Like, what really shocked me about what we went through, and when the victim became the perpetrator, was the fact that several people wouldn't trust the evidence, and
Right.
were still blaming the man because he was a man. And how dare men be accused of, um
And other
I'm sorry,
men.
how
This
dare men
isn't
be
women. This is
victims.
other men
Yeah.
believing, falling into that trap.
Yeah, fortune thought say there's a flip for men also. Men
Yep.
are laughed at when they come forward, that it happened to him. And yeah, that's the thing. Like, men are seen as weak when they fall um for being SA, or their consent is violated, or they are accused of something that they didn't do, and then people don't believe it, because they just want to believe the woman. And it's really unfortunate that women do that, because it harms all the other women that are not believed when they've actually been abused. So it's,
Well,
it's
and then
such a harmful
and
shit.
it gets complicated if it's like like my own essay when I was a teenager. I technically consented, but I was deeply traumatized.
Yeah,
Technically.
but
But like there's a different, but this is the thing, like technically, and even
but
still, okay, even with, and I'm not talking about our situation, I'm just talking about in general, like the
in
way that we
general,
perceive sexual assault is that it's violent, that it is like how it's, and sometimes it is, and I'm not dismissing that at all, but it can be that, like, because of previous traumas, it could be a consent thing. Like, I don't want to, but I want to because I don't want to go through the trauma again. And this happens to people that are survivors of childhood SA, um, and because that's the trauma response, that I don't want to go through it again, so I'm going to lessen it by doing this behavior, or you're, because that's the thing, is that, like, if you have that wound,
yeah.
you don't want to rub salt on it, and so you're going to do the thing that the salt doesn't get rubbed on.
Or emotional
Adapt behavior.
manipulation,
Yeah.
right? Emotional manipulation by
Right.
the abuser, where they're like, well, if you don't do this, you don't love me, or if you don't do this, threats, I'm gonna do that. and
Right.
and so you are left with the only option of, okay, I agree, I will do it, even though deep down you're saying no, or you already said no, and they still continue to convince you and manipulate you into doing that behavior that you don't want to partake
And
in.
I think that what Miss Don Sequitur said, about, like, I believe that there's plenty of essay that for one or another, right or wrong, could never see the justice through the law because it's impossible. Like because there is like that, why, like, there has to be, like, there is no nuance, like, there, like the affidavit I wrote was all about, like, this is why this was not what you think, like, this is not a clear thing, because I even know how this works, because there has to be a clear violation of someone's autonomy.
Autonomy.
But
Yeah.
the thing is, though, if you're a trauma survivor and you think, like, emotionally and, like, and psychologically, it feels like a wound and it feels like SA, even though you technically consented, it gets tricky because the law is going to say, well, and this is why, like, when cops, if they're not trained on SA and trauma specifically, you're going to get, what were you wearing? Did you lead somebody on? What was the circumstances? Were you drinking? Like, it isn't, because the law enforcement is not trained on this shit, people. They're not trained. They're trained to find perpetrators and to, like, get, find if a crime is committed. They're not going to talk to the trauma survivor and go, what were the circumstances that led up to this?
And we know that rape culture is so deeply ingrained in society that it is the automatic go-to. Like, what was she wearing? Look at, she started kissing me, whatever. No, that does not mean that you can do anything further than what was consented.
But I also want to point out, like what we were talking about before, about, like, where we believe all women, the women that, like, basically cry wolf, they know the system. They know that, and especially doing that to manipulate other women. Yeah. Because they know how the system is rigged.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
and that is
because we're living, in postmodernism, and if you're a feminist and you want to, like, you've been traumatized by the specific thing, your natural default is going to, I'm going to believe this person over this, even though, like, I don't want to, because unless you have a really good support system that's going to be like, hold on, I don't think that's correct, you could end up with innocent. That's why we have innocent people in prisons right now who didn't do anything, but because it's baked into the system. It's baked in there.
Oh, Amber is asking what is rigged.
You're rigging everything, Amber. All of it.
All of it. Now,
I blame you.
We were talking specifically about rape culture. It's basically rigged into the system. Like, it's the automatic go-to when somebody claims that they were abused. A woman claims that they were abused. Then automatically, people go to, like, hey, what was she wearing? Did she get too drunk? Did she flirt too much, etc.? Yeah. That's what we're talking about.
One of my group, when I was doing therapy for my own essay, I was in a group therapy, and the therapist said, like, a woman should be allowed to wear, like, a billboard, be completely naked, have a billboard in the street, like, you can have sex with me, like, you can, like, but as soon as she says no, that's when, it does not matter. It does not matter. As soon as the word no passes her lips or stop, that's when you stop.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. And that was like my trigger, that I was like, oh, really? Like, I don't have to be blamed for somebody else's behavior.
Yeah. Like, you can be in the middle of the act, and if either of the parties says no or stop, that's what you do.
You stop, because that's just basic human empathy. being,
Yeah,
being
Cynthia
like,
said,
because honestly, everybody, like, if someone's saying no and you're like that's not a turn on. Like, like, I
right,
don't care how deep you're in. Like, if I hear no or stop or slow down, like, I'm going to, like, if I'm with, like, in an
do
intimate
that.
situation, I'm going to adjust because I don't want that. Like, we're all trying to have a good time. And if somebody's not having a good time, it's not a good time anymore. Like, and I think that,
Yeah,
and I think that comes back to, woman, to pleasure. I think that comes back to, I think that comes back to this sort of patriarchal idea that, like, men are in control of the sexual situations. That And also, like, I've heard stories from men that they've been in sexual situations and they wanted to stop, or they were having, like, feelings of inadequacy, or even, like, just experiencing, like, erectile dysfunction. And and they have
yeah,
this voice in their head that's saying, like, you're not a man, you can't satisfy, blah 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 blah. And um and like, you're supposed, or if a girl's, like, drunk and you're making out with her and there might be, like, a potential for sex, and they say, like, well, I don't, because you're drunk, I don't want to take advantage of you because you can't really consent, because, like, they got good, like, messaging, and then they're, like, made fun of within their groups, like, well, she wanted to bang you, man, you didn't do, like, and it's like, well, I didn't, but she couldn't consent. And they're shamed for it. And that feeds into this whole system about how we relate to sexuality, sex,
yeah.
what is consent, what is not consent, how sexual negotiation is supposed to go. Like, because everybody thinks it's like in the movies where it's very simple, but it's not, or in porn, but it's not. like sexual negotiation is very, very nuanced. That's one thing. Like, I'm part of the king culture. It is because it's nuanced, because there has to be so much conversation about what is
I
okay and not okay.
know, and I was just having a conversation the other day with somebody who's say that they were saving themselves for marriage, and this person's already in their 20s, and some of the conversation was like, well, how, like, you need that experience to learn safety, to learn
Right.
consent, to learn about your own body, to learn what feels good to yourself and what feels good to other people, what you want to do or don't want to do. And consent is one of the really biggest for me, that I think beauty culture really, really harms,
Right.
and makes it to where people just don't learn how to do it, they don't understand it, and that's why we have so much, I say.
And even if you didn't grow up in religion, you're still getting the same messaging. I mean, like, think of
Oh
all the
yeah.
men, I mean, what, like, that are part of our community that have done, like, you're just like, dude, like, that's not, like, don't want to talk about a certain biologist that, like, one of the four horsemen, that had some very interesting ideas about, like, comparative, harm, like,
Mm.
oh, and I'm like, listen, I'm like, that's not how this works. Harm is harm. We're not doing harm competitions. Like, harm is
Oh
harm.
yeah.
And
Exactly.
but there's this natural because you have a little bit of privilege, like, this attitude that if you have a little bit of privilege, like, if you're a woman in this, you're a progressive woman, you're in these spaces of people, like, you're taken seriously. you know Thank you for granting that I have something to say. Thank you so much. Anyway, where you do the work, you show that you're well educated on certain topics, and you're able to do presentations, and you're able to communicate your ideas effectively. There's a lot of people that don't want, they will say, like, well, you've achieved, like, this, this level of respect,
Yeah.
you got it, don't complain. That's basically the attitude, is like, you've achieved success, whatever that is. You got a spot. You got a spot on the, you get to have a voice Olympics. now, but don't
Yeah.
complain, because now you're going to point out the problems that we have over here too, because there's problems in every community. And that's the conversations that we need to have. But what they want to do is say, like, well, you got a spot. You're a trans person, you're a woman, you're, this or that, you're a person of color, whatever. You got a spot. Don't point out that we have problems over here too. Don't do that. We're progressive, blah, 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 blah. All the things
Yeah.
it's all the same. And that's left over from religion. That's left over from an idea that because you're a human being, but I have to put you in a separate category.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's so weird. Why can't
Yeah.
we like all just be human beings? Like, Fortune Thought said, "Your body is your barbecue, and you are the only person who gets to invite others to the party."
Thank
I love
you.
that.
I love that. I'm gonna put that on. I'm
That's
gonna put that on my
perfect.
epitaph.
Yeah, I like that because I watch people like Glenda Jordan, right?
Yeah.
You think about the way that beauty culture, especially those that were raised in like much more controlling religions, they experience it throughout their whole childhood, their upbringing, right? Even when they leave religion, they don't know what to do with themselves. They don't really understand what they're looking for. Like some women do a great job, and they explore, they find themselves. Like Glenda. Glenda's a perfect
Mm-hmm.
example of somebody that has found themselves, and knows how to share that in a healthy way.
Right.
But there's other women that have come from really high control groups that, in the process of their self exploration, they cause really deep harm. And man, I don't even know. Like, how can people get hurt, or where do they even get started? I know you're very well versed in sexuality and stuff like that. Like, how do people come out of these high control religious groups, cults,
I
cults, and
honestly,
start?
find yourself a good sex therapist.
Okay,
Or
a sex
like,
therapist. That's a
honestly,
good idea.
or actually get connected with really people that are well versed in kink. But like people that are like, because there's a lot of like vetted psychologists and people that are and therapists that are in the kink community. Because like, so if you can connect with someone in your community that you don't have to actually do therapy for, but you can actually have conversation, like, because there are people within the kink community that they're guides. Like, these are people that you're not going to have a kink relationship with, but they can guide, especially for younger people that want to explore. You kind of want a mentor. And there's a lot of mentors that are very well versed in trauma, like, and they understand like how, and sexuality, and how like um that kink can be a healing for trauma, because you are in control and it helps you work through those narratives, and also what to look for. Because there are some people that within the community will say that um they'll help you with that, but they have abusive tendencies. And you want a guide so you can bounce, like, this person is approaching me, they want to form a relationship, and that it's basically like an educated friend that's going to go, yeah, I know this person, they're like this, or this person's safe. Yes, like that person's safe to explore, that type of relationship with. Because when we're talking about kink, it turns into a completely different thing, because we are talking about like things like consent, non-consent. We're talking about things like,
Right.
pain. We're talking about things that like pain is pleasure, and what's the line, being controlled or not controlled. Like, these are things that are negotiations. Like, I always say, like, the sub is always in control. Like, you are actually, it's not the dominant that's in control, the sub is in control. You are just
Right.
saying,
Right.
I feel safe with you and I trust you to say, this is what I want within this parameter. And at any time, they're constantly checking in, and there are safeguards in place, and those safeguards are respected. That is the difference. When we're just talking about like, but the thing is though, is that in most sexual relationships, they don't have that playbook in place.
Yeah, true.
It is basically like we're talking about like, as like vanilla sex, whatever. Okay, fine. When if, like you have someone that is said like, well, I'm a dude and I should be able to do blah 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 to her or whatever, or even within like queer culture, with tops and bottoms and that type of, or lesbians or whatever, that there's certain roles people are supposed to play. Like, but if you're not well versed in understanding all that, it's gonna it's not healthy. It's not
Yeah,
healthy because, but the thing is though, is like people see kink as like this taboo thing. Like, okay, yeah, there's whips and like, yeah, there can be bondage and like that type of stuff. Yes, but also it could be just like
it can
for
be
half an hour,
healing.
I just want you to
Yeah,
do to me what you want to for half an hour. And if I'm not into it, I can be like, I can be like, hey, like I don't like that. Let's just shift a little bit. That's fine. Like it's not even, it doesn't have to be what people have in their brains what kink is, but it's more of a conversation about consent and what is okay and what's not okay, and explores being able to also saying what you want. There's a lot because of purity culture, which you brought up. You brought up a really good point. Purity culture says like the things that I want, I don't get to voice because,
the
patriarchy,
man is the one that's
religion,
in
blah, blah.
control. Yeah,
Yeah, the man's in control. And it doesn't even have to be, you could be like a very progressive woman out in public, but in the bedroom, in intimate situations, you're not saying that, like, I don't really like it when he does that, but I just let him, but it might be something that you don't like, but he just wants to do to you. And you just, or he wants me to do this. And like, but I'm like, but he won't do the same for me. It could be that. And that was something that, I had to learn, that I'm allowed to ask for what I want and tell the person that I'm sleeping with, I'm not into this. I don't really want to do this. If they're like, well, I really want this, I'd be like, listen, I'm like, can we focus on things that we have in common? And then the things that we don't want to do, like we can find a way around that. That's a good sexual partner, because that's what happens in kink.
yeah.
It's that back
And I
and
think
forth.
it's what we mentioned earlier, right? About how trauma shapes the way that we respond. And I think people who grew up in very controlling cults and experience physical or psychological trauma, and then they come out of it and they're not sure what to do, and they don't have the education, they're not educated in things like kink, they may jump right into it very, very unsafely and not
Yeah,
voice
like
what they
I always
want.
say, like if you're gonna get involved in
Um,
kink, you need to
yeah,
read. It's like it was kind of like when I got involved with paganism, like honestly, you need to read. Like those of us that became atheists and skeptics, it was reading. It was like educating ourselves, like
but
looking at like what is the skeptical mind.
nonfiction,
Yeah,
nonfiction about
nonfiction,
kink,
please.
because
Like,
fiction
do
kink
not read
is
King.
not.
Like, do not read Harry Potter King fanfic. Everybody,
Well,
like, you can, but do not use it as a guide. Like, fine, you like 50 Shades of Grey and 50 Shades of Grey, and it is your junk food. I am not gonna dumb on your yum. You can watch the shit out of that. I don't care. But that is not a guide to how real relationships work. Like one the channel that I follow, Cinema Therapy, done by two Mormons who are very well educated in psychology topics. One of my favorite channels. Love it. Highly recommend. Please go watch their shit. Anyway, but like one thing he says, he's like, please do not use movies as an example of how relationships work. Like this is
I
fantasy.
know how
And that's the
anything.
whole point. I just like there was a really good example though in the Addams Family movie where Morticia and uh what's his face? Gomez were at an auction,
Oh yeah,
and he checks in with her. He's like, "Is this okay?" And she says, "Yes." Because he, even in the moment, he was still, "Are you okay with this?" That is good sexual communication. But the thing is though, when we're talking about um when we're talking this in relation to trauma, is people that haven't done that work, they will say things that are okay that aren't really okay. And unless you have like, and I'm not talking about like one night stands and that type of stuff. Like if you're going to explore more like other stuff, no, you know what? Even
Yeah.
in a one night stands, I am sorry, not going to say that. Even if you're just like hooking up with somebody and you're just going to fuck, like at least check in. But be like, are there things are like, what do you want to do? Hey, you know, like what do you now want to do? Like have that conversation because like then because even if you get someone that says like I'm okay with everything, no, they're not. They're not okay with everything. There's going to be something that they'll go, I don't really like that. And you have to be the one to be like, are you sure? And
Yeah.
and and the thing is, so in the moment, this is why, like, like I'm not gonna like, sometimes, people have one night stands, everything turns out fine, and other times people have one night stands and it turns into a disaster. But there's no way to predict those things. But it's having that little voice in the back of your head going, like, maybe I should check in. Even when you're drunk or high, like I've been drunk or high plenty of times, people, I still check in
Yeah,
because I
but
have enough
okay,
empathy. The empathy peeks through.
that's another really good example, right? Because
Right.
so a lot of people deal with trauma by intoxicating themselves, using drugs or
Right.
alcohol or whatever to
Right.
cope. But then when you go into situations like kink, um, intoxicated, and you don't know shit about it, or or all you learn about is from the movies and fiction books, then you're gonna find yourself in trouble, and you're gonna put other people in trouble, and very very unsafe situations for both of them. So if you're gonna do it while you're drinking, that's fine. But before you even start drinking, that's when you have to start the conversation sober. Make sure that all the boundaries are put in place, the safe words, all of the safeguards are in place before you start the drinking, so that both
Listen,
of you know.
I've been with my husband 20 years. And like we've gotten drunk and stoned together more times than I can count. We've, fooled around. And I will still be like, are you okay with this? Like, cause like you get to read your partner, and you want to check in. Even when
Yeah.
you're drunk, because like even still, like that is not an excuse because you should be have the wherewithal to realize that you're with another human being and that other human being deserves respect and that other peering, even no matter how drunk you are, like, or how stoned, I don't care. There should be a part of you that the empathy part of your brain should kick in and go, this is another human being and I want them to be okay. Because
Well,
like, because when someone says like I was drunk, I was stoned, I was intoxicated, I was on this drug or whatever, I'm like, okay, I'm like, if you're on a drug that, you know, makes it that you turn into an asshole, don't do that drug. Also, if you're on a drug that you still have the wherewithal to know where you are, and you're about to engage in sexual acts with another human being, you should have the wherewithal to go, hey, you know what? Are you okay with this?
yeah.
You know, but
And
when you're in new situations with new people and you have a couple casual conversations about some very intense stuff, and no, you should not be engaging a certain kid. Like when you're first, like kink shit is not done like on a one night stand. It just isn't. Like
yeah.
it's just not, because we know how complicated it is. Like if you're with your partner for a while or you're in a kink relationship for a while, like you know the rhythm, you know the dance, you know the steps, but you still are like, hey, even so with it, the little empathy part of your brain will kick in and go, you sure?
And
Because the safe words should already be in place, whether you're drunk or drunk or sober. If someone says like, red, yellow, green, you know what to do. And that should have been negotiated before you got drunk or stoned.
right,
Or
and
whatever.
since we are on the topic of trauma, then
Yeah.
you also have to know the person enough that you know whether they have triggers around specific traumas, or
Right.
whether some of their behavior that they are wanting, for example, in the consent non-consent, consensual non-consent kink, right? You have to understand why that person is wanting to participate in that specific kink. And it can often be because their control was taken away from them as a child or growing up, and so they want to feel in control, and they want to feel that that person is doing things to them, but at the same time they have that amount of control to let the person know where the boundaries are
Right.
drawn.
And that's why I say, like, certain levels of kink are like spanking someone during sex. You can do that, when you're just having a one night stand, and it's like you can
Yeah.
tell your partner, like, to spank me. Like, that's fine. But if we're talking about like consent, non consent, that is negotiation. That is a long time of, like, that is trust levels, like deep trust levels. Like, I know that you're not actually going to harm me, like the 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 safety protocol, like you had an OSHA meeting with your partner and put all the OSHA regulations in to make sure that everybody was safe. That is what, you're doing OSHA level, conversations if you're doing consent, non-consent. Like, that's not something you just
Right.
enter in willy-nilly. And I told you, like, when we were going through the situation, I go, it pisses me off that this particular person use that to
Mm-hmm.
manipulate, because it's just like, I'm like, oh, you didn't get it. You didn't, like, oh no, oh no. And because especially in the king community, those conversations are sacred. Like, not sacred in
Oh,
like a religious way, but sacred in like forming trust and
important.
bonds with other people. It's so important to have those conversations, because when you're engaging in kink, there's so much damage that could be done, and even unintentional damage. Like, you could have all the protocols in place, and you can make sure that the safety parameters there, and you're sober and you're doing all the things, and something will go wrong and you've re-traumatized your partner, and you have to step in and say, and take on the role of care. It's no longer a sexual situation. You have to take on the form of a caregiver, and you have to
Right.
know how to navigate that road, um as the partner, because even though you said we're going to engage in this particular activity, it doesn't have to be consent and consent. It can just be like, hitting your partner with a flogger. Okay, like, seems pretty benign, but the thing is, though, is that, like, you don't know somebody else's brain, you don't know their trauma, and like you could done it 30 times before, there was no problem. 31, they have a response. What do you do? And you have to know
Right.
what to do. You have to know how to switch from dom to caregiver. Reassurance, knowing that, telling that person that they're safe, like doing, and then doing aftercare. Like, you have to know the steps. If you don't know the steps, if you don't know the
Exactly.
dance, you shouldn't be engaging in this level of kink. Like, and that's why in the kink community, we're always about conversation, conversation, conversation. Poly people, conversation, 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 over and over again. And the thing is, though, is that because it's sexual in nature, people don't want to have those conversations. They don't want to talk about the intensity of they don't want to talk, one, they don't want to talk about the trauma, because they think that, or they don't want to talk about, like, how certain kinks can heal their trauma. Like, they shouldn't want certain things. And it's like, listen, I'm like, your brain's a complicated thing. If this is going to help you heal your trauma, like, the person that you're like, that it wants to engage in that should be there to want to support it. If they're not, hi, Bree, my girlfriend's here. Hi, baby. Anyway, so, like, I'm gonna, like, sorry, distracted. But if you're going to engage in any sort of like kink sort of thing, is that you're going to have the conversation with somebody first and be like, I'm not okay with this. I'm not okay with that. Like, that's the type of conversation you have before you walk down that road. And you're
And I will
constantly checking
say,
in the whole time, even in consent, non consent, constantly checking in.
Yeah, especially for consensual non-consent, which can, get a little bit out of line if you don't know what you're doing, because some people use this as a way to heal their trauma. They have to be even more careful on how to put it in place. And if you're gonna go and do it with somebody that you just met for the first time in person, even though you may have had some conversations with this person before, but you haven't had this conversation face to face, like get their actual feel for the whole situation, um put out the words and all the safeguards and all the aftercare needs, like let the person know what you need after, then you're going to traumatize yourself even worse.
Right.
That's what's going to happen, and now you're going to have all the trauma that you already had, plus the trauma that you caused yourself, plus the trauma that you caused other people. So okay,
Well,
so there
and
was
and I think
actually,
that's
yeah.
I think that's something that's another conversation we need to start having in this community about like what. Sorry, I was just reading Bree's comment. Hi, baby. Anyway, sorry.
What did she say? Oh,
Anyway, like
she's
I
so
was like,
funny.
Bree,
It's like,
shut up. Anyway, so what I was going to say was about like if you're going to engage in any of this activity, you have to kind of be like I was luckily. I should not say second. Stop it.
yeah, yeah.
Stop it. Sorry. I had a point. I had a point. My point was is that like if you're going to engage in any sort of like just sexual activity, like you and somebody are gonna bang, like there should be a conversation about like what is okay and what's not okay. Like if you're like listen, like maybe you don't like a doggy style, like you should say like I don't really like to have sex that way. Like that is a simple thing. Like people have certain limits. You should
Right.
be able to
Just
voice
try a
those.
different one. Yeah.
Yeah, like let's try a different one, or like, well, or if you're like someone that really likes it, doggy style, but your partner doesn't, like, well, what's a negotiation we could have that we could like I could, like whatever that looks like, you know,
Yeah.
like what could I do to help you enjoy it more? Like that's a conversation that you have. And like as like when I was a high school student, I had one of my sex educators say, like, if you're going to doing adult things, then you need to have a conversation about adult things.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
it's something that I carried through into adulthood, that even still at 48 years old, I'm still having adult conversations about adult things, because when
Good.
I'm in any sort of relationship, that we're having that conversation about like what's okay and what's not okay. Even like I've been with my partner for 20 years. We still have the same conversation. What is okay, what's not okay.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
even
because
though
people
this was
change.
okay before, may not be okay now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. See?
Yeah, exactly. Like people
Husband's here.
change over time. Like in 20 years, I'm sure things have, tastes and interests have changed.
Yeah.
So
Well, and well, also too, like it can be like, no, I don't want that.
yeah,
I changed
yeah.
mine,
but
Okay, so
like,
there was a
but like, and I think
question.
that is that still sexy if you go through a catalog of things to do and not be do beforehand. That's yeah.
Never romance. Okay. Okay. No, Jar was saying that there was a good question um from Theo. So I
This
was
is the way. Like, listen,
making
this
sure
is
we.
my like consent. Consent is sexy. Consent is like reframe it. Consent is very sexy. If someone's asking me like, "Hey, what do you want?" I'm like, "Ooh," like if someone's like, "I like," or if they're like, "I want to do this to you, is that okay?" And I'm like,
That's a good point.
"Yes." Or because if you say something like just gotta put on a sexy voice, just put on a sexy voice and just ask your partner, whoever you're like,
Hello.
whatever you're gonna do, be like, hey, can I do this to you? And if they're like yes, like I would really like that, then cool. Or be like, no, and then be like, but like, and then you go, okay, what would you like? And then encourage them to tell you what they would like. You can still be sexy. I think that Hollywood has ruined sex for us, everybody. Because your partner should be able to mind read you. And this goes back to trauma. This, like, I know I'm talking about sex, but I'm going back because like, we've had so much sexual trauma. Even if you were not
Yeah.
SA'd, because of purity culture, there was some kind of bullshit they were talking. Even if you're an atheist from birth, just because we live in American culture and it's been so influenced by fucking Puritans, we have kind of digested it. Like, this is a generational trauma thing that we've all kind of digested. That women, even if you don't believe in God or not, that somehow, or you're a queer person or whatever, that you have to swallow, whatever bullshit that you're told. And this is your role. This is your role. Please perform the role. Like it and that's the thing about like the male gaze, and we're talking about like how we're perceived. It comes down like, certain women like one thing I'm dealing with now, like that I've been taught, that I past 45, I shouldn't be desirable. I shouldn't want sex. I shouldn't want to have people that want to fuck me. Like, I'm not saying I'm going to fuck everybody, because I'm not, but I'm just saying, like, you don't get to participate in the sexuality Olympics. Like, and then if someone does find me attractive, like that because of the messaging, is something that I know I'm hot, but like when someone tells me I'm hot, I have a problem receiving that, because society has told me you're not allowed to be.
I know. So I was raised an atheist, and then I became a believer, and then I became an atheist again. I guess I was always an atheist, but anyway. But during the time that I was religious, I felt that purity culture so, like, I felt it so deeply. Like I just felt like I had to present as a woman and act like a woman, and be all feminine, and sex was like a disgusting thing. Okay, not disgusting, but like taboo, right? So it's when I left religion, with through having conversations with people like yourself and other members of the community, I was like, oh, holy crap! I'm watching Belinda Jordan, and seeing how she changed herself and how she found herself, and it's like, wow, like I didn't even realize how deeply it affects the way that you feel about yourself. Even like I told you earlier, right? Like we went out and I was dressed up, and we ended up going out to take pictures because I felt
so hot,
confident.
so hot, by the way. So fucking hot.
And it's hard for me to feel that way a lot. Yeah, but I like what you were saying, right? Like even as we age, we should still be able to feel sexy or desired, or like, okay, I'm not a highly sexual person at all. Um, when it happens, I'm happy. I'm pretty pleased with it. It's just like my brain is so ADHD that it's always somewhere else and not thinking about that. But I feel so bad for all of the women that are still following that beauty culture and that are not feeling themselves, feeling their confidence that they can have.
I was listening to Alanis Morissette, and she has this song called "Unsexy," and it was like, I can feel so unsexy for someone so beautiful. Like you're told, but because the mentality is that that you are not sexy, also like, or you can't be sexy if you're overweight, or you can't be sexy because you're this color, or you can't be sexy because you're this age or whatever, like it, because of the fucking messaging, because of capitalism. It's like, it tells you like, this is the ideal, like
and you have to look like a model.
I don't know if she's still here, but she's like, Helen, you have a mom bod. And she's like, I find that really sexy. And like, for me, I was like, what? Like you find like
Look
because
at
the messaging is that you have to be thin and you have to be white and you have to be like, straight presenting and all this bullshit that you're told, right? When someone like tells you that you're hot and wants you for you, it's kind of like it's like this bullshit that you're told. There's like so much bullshit that we're told about like our bodies, and it's a trauma. It is a trauma of like you cannot exist in your own skin and have like obviously I want people to be healthy and take care of themselves, but not because it's a competition, just because like we know that diet and exercise does really affect your life. Am I good on the exercise? No. I'm lazy. Also, I have chronic pain. So that
same.
makes exercise hard. But for someone to say like they find you sexy, like one, it's like, oh, that's awesome. Like, thank you. Like, that's affirming. But like also too, but there's this idea that this is the
Just
ideal
doubt.
person. Like, like yeah, the doubt, the thing that's because you've been told, because this is one thing that like purity culture loves and religion loves, especially like with TikTok influencers and stuff like with trad wives and all that bullshit, is like this is the ideal woman.
Oh yeah.
Like you want Betty from Mad Men. That's the woman you want. And I'm like, that woman doesn't exist.
I
Like in
know.
Everyday Wife, she doesn't even Betty from Mad Men does not exist because she was like, I don't like the box that you put me in.
I I think the reason it was hard for me to feel confident now, even though I present more like what I want to present, um, was because I felt so not confident when I was in religion and I was like trying to perform that feminine look, right? Going to church, you gotta wear the dress and don't show your cleavage and don't show too much skin for because temptation. So it was hard for me having felt having never felt confident for all of those years to then be like, okay, I look now the way I want to, but I still don't feel confident. So yeah, it's
Right.
been a
And that's
process. I feel much better now, but it's been a process, slow
it's
process.
still a process. Like even though like
Yeah.
I know I'm attractive, like I don't like I know I'm an attractive woman, there's still that voice. It's also the voice that says like, there's something wrong with you for being queer. There's something wrong with you for liking sex. Like there's the voice, there's something like, that's constantly
Society.
society. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, you're in your late 40s. You
Or
shouldn't like you're
this
going through
one,
perimenopause, you shouldn't want to like still want to be sexual. Like there's some like you should just like become like an old maid because like there's so much focus. Also, this is traumatizing to people on the other side. If like me and Glenda have talked about this, about how if you're beautiful, there's a certain expectation of how you're supposed to be in society, and you're supposed to feed the appetite of the male gaze, where we're taught if you're like I'm sure you've experienced this as someone that is deaf, that the world isn't made for you, and so you have to adapt to the world that has been
right?
designed for people that aren't deaf, right? You have to
Yeah.
adapt in, right? And you talked about this as a trauma because and now that you found your voice, like certain people in your life don't like that because they liked you submissive, they liked you not having a voice, and also for you to be the person that is taken care of rather than the person that is going to take care. And I think that is hard for people when you're a woman and you're like, well, yeah, I have this thing about me, but I'm not going to let that define me. And people that are traumatized and want to be in control don't want that, because they're like, oh no, then I don't get to control the narrative,
Yeah.
and there's a narrative that I have to control.
Yeah. Hidden
Yeah,
Granny. Not familiar with you. Hello, welcome. She says Western influence has made being queer and trans be seen as shameful. It is.
exactly.
It absolutely has. Anything, any LGBTQ person, all of the queer people are. seen as shameful. I mean, it started with the gays, right? Like, and now any man that barely seems feminine, I don't know, that likes to have their hair nice or whatever, right? Or wear nail
Like
polish.
cookie was metrosexual.
They're gay. Are you gay? How dare you be gay? As if it was a bad thing. Honestly, some of the coolest men that we both know are bisexual, and I don't feel
Listen, Pedro
very.
Pedro Pascal is queer.
Oh, right,
And
yeah, yeah,
he floods my basement all the time. I'm like, hello, loves his sister is trans, and he
yeah,
speaks out against like all the prejudice, and I'm just like, yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then
I
all
mean,
the straight men, are all the straight like guys that have not evolved are like, why are women into him? And I'm like, there's reasons.
cause yeah, yeah, and it doesn't have to be anything to do with looks, cause
No,
that
he just
confidence.
happens to be very sexy, but like
Yeah,
he
yeah,
could
yeah,
just like like Ian McKellen or George Takai don't want to bang either of those men, but also I love them. So like let's like does it like it helps if I want to bang you. but, but but also like if anyone knows me, I'm like, if you're a nice person and I find you moderately attractive, you're probably gonna flood my basement. I'm not picky. Just be kind. And also I'm like, I tap it. Hell yeah.
you're so funny.
I'm not shy. But also too, that's another thing. Like the fact that I like just say what I want. Also there's a bunch of straight guys that would probably like straight white guys that would want to silence me and be like, oh, I get to own her vagina. No, you don't. You don't get to own my vagina. And that's another thing that purity culture, this is the thing about trauma. It's not just like what is directly done to you, it is also any messaging that you got as a
Yeah,
young person before you had a sense of self.
yeah, and then this damn beauty culture is so deeply ingrained in our society. It's like you don't, like you said earlier, you don't even have to be religious. You don't have to be in a cult to be affected by beauty culture. It's everywhere. It's already everywhere. So like we need to
I mean, like,
destroy it,
think
throw it
about
away
like,
with the patriarchy.
okay, so I'm gonna, okay, AJ, we're gonna have real talk, okay, okay,
Uh,
okay. So, have you ever been like out and about, like grocery shopping or just hanging out, and you see a woman in slightly revealing clothing, and made an
oh,
instant
sure.
judgment about her?
I used to, yeah.
Yeah.
Now I
Now you
I
don't,
would
because
say
you're
no.
like, oh, that was some bullshit I was taught.
Yeah. But
That's the thing. If you're looking at, or you're looking at, what you think is a straight man, and they, do something that is typically feminine, and you put them in a default category, or like that, this is the thing that we've been taught by society, that like men behave this way, women behave this way, these are the rules, sluts behave this way, blah blah blah, whatever that is. It's like, no, it's just like that, those aren't the rules. Like it's like the people that go, it's like people that go up to women that are, just hanging out on the beach, and they happen to be in a bathing suit, and then they judge them for like
yeah,
showing too much skin. I'm like, we're on the fucking beach, man.
it's a beach. That's
And
what you're meant
like
to do.
like it's a beach. Like if I, like, the fact that I have to think about like covering on my breasts, like in my own house with the other people that live in my house, like granted one of them is my children, which I totally get, but like my roommate, like, why should it matter? But it does, because of social laws, like, because of shame. Eli and I have talked a lot about shame, about the shame that their like skin equates arousal, and arousal, it leads to sex, but it doesn't. You can be aroused, but it doesn't have. You don't actually have to, like. It doesn't have to lead to a sexual activity. But the fact
Right,
that you're
right.
even thinking about it is
Yeah,
another thing that
yeah.
you've been traumatized to understand, that this is wrong.
Right,
when
and
it could
and
just be
I
a thought.
I think people that have deconverted that purity culture can understand that you can have relationships that don't necessarily have to be sexual, or that you can have physical touch without it leading to sex, and where there can be boundaries that you can understand with your specific relationships if you're poly or whatever, right? uh
But well, the thing is though, like I'm polyamorous, but I don't want to sleep with everybody. Like I can be sexually
right.
attracted to you, but but like unless you're like we've had a conversation, you're like really into it. Like no, like I can be sexually attracted to someone and still not expect it. And
Yeah,
because I think that we've been taught by society that if even if you're sexually attracted to each other, that's like, the whole Harry Met Sally thing, like women and men can't be friends. I'm like, why? Why can't we be friends? Like, well, there's
right.
always going to be sex involved. Okay, so let's say we fuck and we just remain friends. Can we do that?
Yeah,
Or we don't fuck, or we just go, hey, we're sexually attracted to each other. Cool. You just admit that you're sexually attracted to each other and then you move on with your life. Like,
yeah.
but because we put categories around things, like one thing Todd learned from me being, a queer person was that, oh, I can also say that I'm attracted to someone and I can just say it. I'm like, yes, you can. Because as long as you're not cheating on me,
Yeah,
like, and
yeah.
I'm
There,
poly, like I don't have a problem with him sleeping with other people as long as we have a conversation about it. Just don't do it behind my back. Because,
right.
but
Yeah,
some people,
exactly.
and that's why, like, I don't have, like,
Rules.
everybody has to decide what is good for them within their relationships, kink or
Yeah,
non-kink.
exactly. Like I've realized that, again, I said I'm not a highly sexual person, and one partner is more than enough for me. So, but like I can find people good looking, but to me, it doesn't feel like a sexual attraction. I'm like I think you're very good looking, right? But I'm not like thinking, oh, I want to go and have sex with her or something. It's just like
Right.
I can like admire your beauty, and I would much rather have like this kind of conversation with you,
Everybody
just like
knows,
talk.
everybody knows their level. Everybody knows. Like,
Right?
everybody,
Yeah.
like, I can be like, hey, you're hot. Like, I see, like, there are several people that were friends up in our community that I would bang. But like in like the fantasy part of my brain, like, have
Yeah.
I had sexual fantasies about you? Yes, I have. But I also know for friends first, and I value that more than me being like, hey, let's bang.
Right. Right.
Like, I don't think there's any shame in saying, like, I find my certain friends sexually attractive. Eli knows. Eli and I have had this conversation. We find each other sexually attractive. Guess what? We're still not banging each other, and we can still be friends. We can still
Right.
have
Yeah.
we can have that conversation. Go, I can find you sexually attractive. Guess what? And guess what? We don't even have to have sex.
That's what
We
it
can
is.
just have that
Yeah.
conversation and be like, hey, I find you physically attractive on that level. We might want to engage in this activity, but we're not going to because it would just not be good. Like, whatever circumstance, because we understand what consent is, we understand what boundaries are. That's being honest. When people start putting all these qualifiers in and all that type of bullshit, that's when it turns into a disaster. That's when it turns into, like, well, yeah, I find them attractive, but like I don't want to bang them. I'm like, do you find them attractive or not? Because if you're finding someone like aesthetically pleasing, that's one thing. Like, I find plenty of people aesthetically pleasing and I don't want to have sex with them. They're like, I find you aesthetically pleasing and I find you sexually attractive. But guess what? I know our level of friendship. So I'm just
Right.
going to say it and then we're going to move on from that. And that's fine because there's no expectation. It's the idea that there has, if sexual attraction comes with an expectation. And that is what purity culture teaches you.
That
Purity culture teaches you that if you're sexually attracted to somebody, then there's an expectation of sex.
right, and that's what happens when with lack of consent, right? Because a man
Mhm.
can find a woman that's naked and be like, oh, I'm sexually attracted to her, and then does whatever they want. And yeah, that's not how it works. Because like you have to be the one to put the self control out there. Don't expect the woman that is exposed to be the one to
Right.
yeah, right.
Right.
Like
Because, like, it's blaming the woman that you got a hard on. Like, it's like, well, because there have been, like, I'm sure there have been like women that have been like, okay, we're gonna like, um, okay, like, I don't even know who to talk about. I don't know. Like, the conventionally attractive person, okay, is like in society, it was like, cool, I would bang her. Cool. There are plenty of people that might find that conventionally attractive person not conventionally attractive, and they don't want to bang her or him or they, like, they don't want to. It's like, because, like, guess what? Attraction is a spectrum.
yeah,
Like,
Mark made a
so
point. He said, I think that there's a toxic masculinity thing that if you are attracted to someone, you have to act or you're a loser.
we
Yeah,
were just talking about this
absolutely,
earlier.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
right. And guess what, guys? An untreated boner is not gonna kill you.
It won't. I No, it was really
Or
funny. Like when I found out, like, I don't know, like, I don't know who was the wonderful person when I was a teenager that told me that the blue balls wasn't a thing. I don't know who that was, but like, I had a ex-boyfriend when I was in high school. I'm like, you'll be fine. You can masturbate. You'll be fine. Like, you're not gonna die. Like, and I don't know, and if any, like, I am so sorry if you fell for that shit, because like that was some bullshit you were told, and it's not true. Oh, thank you. It's all penises.
excuse me.
It's all penis shirts. All penises. That's why I'm a queer unicorn. All the penis. But that being said, like, that's the problem though. It's like this idea, like, you know, you have to bang someone if you're sexually attracted to them, or you can't just say, hey, I find you attractive in our friend group, and we can just stay friends. And if
Yeah.
later on, if we get, yes, we're going, yes, Amber, you and I are going to the Pink Pony Club. Oh my God, lesbians all the time. Anyway, that being said, like, but there is this sort of idea that if you are sexually attracted to someone, that there has to be sex involved. And I'm just like, well, I can look at someone, like, this is the thing, there's a difference between thought and voice and action.
Right. Okay,
Like,
so
I can think it, and then if I trust you enough, like, like you and I have a level of trust, I'd be like, I'm sexually attracted to you, but also at the
yeah.
same time, not gonna bang you, because that's not our relationship.
Yeah, so
That's
Eli is
okay.
saying that when he was a teenager, there was a talk of a point of no return, after which men were not capable of controlling themselves.
Oh
But
my God, Mark.
what you can do is go
Yeah.
to the bathroom and control yourself.
Like, I think because I grew up with 5 older brothers, and there was like this kind of messaging that like this wasn't actually a thing, because then, like, okay, if then any female would arouse you, and then like you would suddenly like be not like, I can't even like, and also too, like, actually, you know what, there was an episode of Seventh Heaven, one of the like most awesome TV shows in the 1990s, but also one of the worst. But one of the messaging was like, the purity. This is from a TV show that was all about Christianity. Says that like this message says that men are animals, like, and they're not capable of controlling themselves, which is also like, thank you, Eli. But this is an
But so
episode, but also there was a message to the little girl that had like a collar on her neck, like, because she was like dressing as the band. Like, there's a band that the character wanted to see, but she was like 10 years old, and there was about that nuance of like not like it was a little bit of purity shaming, but not, because like the message I took away from it, like, you are not responsible for some another person reacts to you, but because of purity culture, you kind of have to be aware of it. Like that was the messaging I got from my brain when I was in my 20s. like it was a choke. Yeah, it was a choker. Yeah, but it was like but also it was a band called like about puppies. It was a whole thing. Like if you look at the subtext, especially if you're in kink, you're just like, oh no. And it's a 10-year-old child. Oh no. Like if you're looking at pop culture from as the lens of an adult, you're like, oh my God, like nothing can be innocent anymore because of the fact that certain little girl adaptations within king culture have become a thing, like Catholic schoolgirl thing. Like have that is a thing of patriarchy and being young, and this whole thing of purity culture, and this idea that we've talked about, like, you know, like you know, Matt Walsh once keeps saying that younger and younger girls should be allowed to be married, like basically saying that if you get your menstrual period that you're suddenly okay to get married, which he has said. It's like,
yeah, gross.
because it all relates back to that, this whole idea of like the younger you are, the more sexually available you are, which is gross. And that comes from patriarchy.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, like, hey, you only got so much time before you have to bang this girl and she can get pregnant. Like,
right. Yeah, it's
right.
gross.
And which also, and then that leads to that sex can't be for pleasure. Sex can't be with like a mature adult that can say what they want and what they don't want. Like, and also helping younger generations be able to negotiate those conversations. Like that comes from purity culture. That comes from trauma. That comes from people saying you like your sexuality is not your own. It is owned by somebody else. And also for people that know how to manipulate that.
No. But it's crazy because this comes from a time where women were property of men, right? At first,
Right.
you were the property of your father. That is why even today, in our secular spaces, even the fathers give away the rights. They give them to the husband as property, right? And we still use that, and we don't even realize how deeply that purity culture, biblical purity culture, is into our society. But okay, there was a comment by Theo that I wanted to address, and he said that some men have almost no impulse control and no manners. Some of them have no manners. Okay, as far as the impulse control, that's actually a thing. And I was researching for a video quite a while back, and I read that the parts of the brain, the prefrontal cortex that deals with self-control and decision making, when you are highly aroused and you know having sex, that part shuts down quite a bit, so you're
Yep.
gonna make terrible decisions. You're not gonna be able to control yourself, and I think that's what happens often when and I'm not saying that is to blame for people abusing sexually abusing others, right?
No.
It could be part of it. It could lead
Well,
to that, but
there's
people
a thing though.
should
There
but they
is
still
that.
have the ability. Yeah,
There's the empathy part of your brain though. There's still a thing. Like you're
there,
with another human
right.
being. Like there, like, yes, there can be like I've been in those moments where I'm not really thinking, but I am still like I can read micro expressions. Like if someone's not, I'm like, hey, do you like this? Like
perceive if they're in
that has
pain.
nothing to do with like your impulse. It has to do with like in the moment that you're looking at someone, and like if you're well versed and like just being with other people, that you're just like, hey, is this okay? Like, you know, like I'm about to do this to you. Do you want me to? Like you, and you're looking for confirmation. If you proceed and that person's giving a clear indication that I don't like this, that we know the difference.
You should still,
like we know that, like even in our drunk, like, you know, even if you're a man and you are like, hey, she's into it. If you have any self-awareness, you'll go, she's making that face. And you'll go, hey, do you want me to do this to you? Because she may not have the verbal aptitude to say, like, I don't want that. But if you have, even, it's like, listen, I've been plenty stoned and I've been with plenty of people that have been stoned and drunk and on different substances. The part of their brain will still pipe up and go, is this okay? You know, so we do want, and then if you are so intoxicated that you cannot have any self-control, then that's a problem, because then you're crossing into somebody else's bound, and then yes, it is assault, because you've hit that line, because we've all said, like, for example, when Roseanne Barr did a racism and she blamed it on Ambien.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
You know, nobody said, like, you get a pass because you were taking Ambien. We were all like, no, you did a racism, Roseanne. It's the same thing. It's like, if you're in the moment and
the racism just came out.
the racism, like, okay, then you don't really, like, no matter what medication you're on, like, your personality doesn't change. Like, I've had these conversations with therapists and things like that. Like, there's a part of your brain that is well developed enough that when you have empathy and sympathy for other people, like, it will manifest. Because this is why you don't get people that are, like, totally drunk all the time, have sex, and they're, like, essaying, like, people, like, all the time. That it doesn't happen. You don't get people that are like, oh, I got drunk and I had sex with a 14-year-old. Like, no, it's like, you, like, we know the line, because we know that people have to be personally responsible to a certain point. You know,
like,
because there are plenty of people, like, for example, that, like, do bath salts and don't eat people's faces off. Like, everybody knows the line.
Right. Yeah, like, yeah, of course, like, if that part of the brain that deals with decision making and self-control isn't working 100%, doesn't mean that it's completely shut off.
Right.
And also, it doesn't mean that all the other parts are shut down either, right? The insula, which deals with disgust. If you see somebody showing you signs that they don't like what you're doing, then you're gonna realize it.
Because anytime you've had a drunk friend, like, that was, like, very intoxicated, and somebody else came over to them and be like, hey man, like, you're at a 10, let's bring it down to a 5, and you were able to calm them down, they had enough wherewithal to recognize somebody else is telling them that their behavior is not okay. Right. And they were able to de-escalate because they had enough things in their brain to go, oh, I am, because that's why you need confirmation. That's why you need other people to be like, hey man, this is not okay. We're going to de-escalate. Personal responsibility has to take some sort of place there. And if you're so intoxicated that you turn into a monster, then I'm sorry, like, there are going to be consequences, because that's still not an excuse to harm another person. That's not an excuse. Because everybody that has, like, what is okay is not okay, like, to a certain degree, like, knows the line. Okay. And I don't care, like, listen, I am very well versed in trauma. I am very well versed in, like, knowing, like, you know, that trauma can manifest in really weird ways and it can cause harm. But when it causes so much harm that someone's filing a police report, yeah, you've kind of crossed the line at that point. Like, there has to be some nuance there. Like, and I can I can understand why you're like, as my husband says, no one cares why you're being an asshole. You're just an asshole. That's kind of where that's my limit. I'm like, I can understand you, but, like, you've gone beyond the pale. You've gone beyond the pale at this point.
Yeah, because, like, okay, sure, bad decisions were made while you were intoxicated, but when you became sober, you still continued to make bad decisions to the point that you realize you falsely accused someone and then you still file a police report. And yeah, that's a problem. That's a very, very
Like,
big
and
problem.
that's the difference. It's like, okay, like I was up till that point until when you falsely accuse somebody of something they didn't do, and then I'm like, okay, you've lost the thread. You have lost the thread, honey, because I'm just like, oh no. And especially this is another thing too, is that if you are in the group of people that have been abused and have been a survivor. I don't say victim for myself. I don't say victim anymore. I'm a survivor of SA.
Yeah.
Like when because I've done the work. Like if someone's still calling themselves a
Yeah,
victim,
yeah.
yes, you are. Like yes, but I'm like, but I've done and I'm still doing the work. It's constant.
You've
It's gonna be a
survived it.
constant thing. Probably till I'm old, but whatever.
Yeah, it's
But
more
the fact
empowering.
that but the fact that you get to a point where you're just like, oh my God, I will not allow you to do that narrative anymore. Because that's the problem, is that even people that are survivors of that type of like the abuse, they will still fall into patterns that are destructive for other people because they haven't really sat down and done the work. You can say you did the work, but you like, unless you're able to be like, listen, I did work and I still have work to do. Cause like, I thought that like recently the stuff that happened between you and I thought I did the work. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh no, I have more work to do.
Right, right, because it reopened that wound. Even though you had dealt with it and you knew how to cope, this very specific incident was just so painful that it really brings back up all of those memories and all of those trauma wounds that you had originally. So now you have all the extra work to do because somebody else decided to be a fuckhead.
And I think there's a certain understanding. Like I know that I'm like, oh, this stirred up some shit, and I want to do the work because I've done the work before. That I know that I have the ability to work through it. Um, I know for a lot of people, like I have a very good support system. I have friends, and I have like my husband, and and also like my roommate. They're also trauma survivors, and also the people that I'm friends with in this community. I am very lucky that I have people that I can talk about, and I have a therapist that, like, with uh my therapist is great, and I often talk to her about like my support community, because like I don't want my support community to do the job of my therapist. Please don't put that on your support community. Like, you go to therapy because you are paying this person to, like, hey, you're well versed in trauma, help me deal with this. You go to your support community like, hey, when like I just want to, like, you go to your support community going like, hey, will you watch like Beetlejuice with me because I'm having a moment and I need some escapism, or hey, can I verbally vomit on you for whatever you're going through. Like, you're not expecting them to fix you, you just want an outlet. The
Yeah.
therapist, the person that's actually you're paying the money to do the work, is the person that you should be going to. Now, I understand that we live under capitalism.
Yeah.
Fucked up. Okay.
True.
So, guess what? If you cannot afford, basic mental health care, I recommend things like The Body Keeps the Score. I recommend other trauma related books about, like, listening to, like, who'd you talk about? Who is the therapist you talked about?
Oh, Dr. Gabor Mate. Oh my gosh, he has so much
All
amazing
right.
stuff. Like it's all
Dr.
over
Kirk
YouTube. I'm gonna put the
Dr.
name in
Kirk
the chat.
Honda is another person that I've been listening to for over 15 years. Like, people that are well versed, because they interview other creators that are well versed in trauma. specific types of trauma, like psychologists. Like you may not be able to get like direct therapy, but you can get resources that can help you understand what you're going through till you can get the therapy. Like there are resources out there. Use ChatGPT. There are like ask your ChatGPT to give you sources on specific types of trauma
On information,
and
yeah.
specific type, like ask for actual resources, look at actual academic papers, because yes, we are living in dystopia, everybody. I understand that, and everybody doesn't get direct access. Like the therapy I get is done through my state, and because I was already established with that before I got my current job, they were still using that system. That one thing against by one Republican in my state was Vernon Buchanan, because his child was a victim of drug abuse. And he realized that through state funding, his child would benefit from, mental health services. And because he developed, like, again, we hate this about Republicans, but like sometimes it is about like who they know.
Yeah.
There are systems in place that you can get mental health care in my state. And like, even though technically my insurance would pay for it, I'm still in that system. I'm very grateful for that. I also recognize that I got in before certain situations took over. But look for resources. If you're looking for like if you can't get with a therapist, talk to a friend that is a therapist and go, what resources can I use?
Yeah.
Like use the community that you have, because you may not be able to get into therapy, but you can educate yourself and then get a feedback and find communities online that are healthy. Because like now someone is saying like, hey, you're traumatized, let me feed into your trauma, but like, hey, how do we heal it? That's what you're looking for. And that you're not going to be judged, and someone's not sitting there going like, hey, this is the cure-all. Like, what is the rule? Like, if you recognize that you're traumatized and you need to do the work, then recognize that you're traumatized and that you need to do the work, and what work is going to work for you. Getting well versed, I'm not saying that, like I always say, like therapy is like dating. Same when what do you need is kind of homework. You shouldn't be relying on a therapist to tell you what you need. You have to know what you need. Like you have to be have enough self-awareness to recognize what you need. I know some people don't always get that, but we're living in a situation that, guess what? We are living in a situation where only the privileged are going to get that information. So guess what? You have to do your own self-resourcing. I'm sorry. It's not fair. It's fucked up. I want everybody to have a therapist on speed dial. I want my therapist to have a therapist on speed dial. Like, I want that for everybody. But guess what? You don't get that. So you have to self-educate, and also to be able to vet. And also, what kind of sources you're getting, and to make sure that you're actually getting good mental health advice. If someone's giving mental health advice, they better come with the fucking peer review sources. If they don't, then they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I'm sorry. That's the world we're living in. I'm sorry. But like, I want people to, you have to help yourself at this point, because we are living in a dystopia.
It's fucking sad, but it is the truth. And I really, really think that we have so many people who are traumatized and have not done the work and have not sought therapy. And I hope that they're listening and doing that.
The only reason why I'm because I have a great therapist that is giving me maintenance, that I'm like, hey, do you want me to find sources for you? Do you want me to help you? Because I can lead you in the right direction to get you your help that you need. I am well versed in trauma. I am not a trauma therapist. I'm just very well versed in it, because guess what? As someone that's traumatized, I did the work.
Yeah, exactly. And this quote comes to mind: traumatized people traumatize people. Right? If you don't deal with your trauma and you are traumatized, you are more likely to traumatize other people because you haven't done the work. So get to work. Get to work. I
Yeah,
think this is a good place to start finishing up.
yeah,
Unless you have any
we went
more.
overtime.
Yeah, I know, and I'm hungry. I think
I am
dinner's
too.
probably ready.
Tom made dinner.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I know. I haven't had dinner yet. So real quick, I'm gonna share what I have coming up. Click the wrong window, of course. Let me pull it up. I think I only have 2 shows scheduled right now, which is fine. Okay, there we go. So first one is gonna be my birthday stream, and that's November 4th. Everybody's welcome to join. It's just gonna be like a party. And then November 29th, I'm gonna have Richard Gilliver, and
I'm
we're
gonna
gonna
show
talk
up.
about
I show up your
philosophy.
birthday stream because I scolded you. I was like, "What? You have a birthday stream and you did not
I
invite
know.
me?"
I was like, oh, I don't know. I just invite everybody. Yeah. So that's gonna be fun. And then also, before we go, my husband's been working really hard on this. Me too. Me too. I've been working hard too. So we made a website,
Oh,
and so this is a website that we used to have, and we kind of rebranded it and brought it back up to life. And it is for we're selling shit. We're selling shirts with my logo on it,
there's merch.
and
Get some merch, guys.
like pictures that he's taken. He took this photo, like little science shirts. Let me see. Pull this one up. Okay, it's not pulling up. It says "Think responsibly."
Oh,
The
I love
frogs,
that. That's
the
great.
Portland frogs,
Listen,
frogs against
listen.
hate.
I don't like frogs, and the fact that the frogs have become the the
Oh,
symbol
I'm
of the
sorry.
resistance. It's fucking with my brain.
I know, and we have so many of those really fun. So yeah, the website's ready, everybody. Because last time I advertised it, it wasn't ready for the sales. Now it's ready. It's open. Buy whatever.
Um, so,
What do you got coming up? What do you have tomorrow?
so
You said.
tomorrow, Mandisa Thomas is going to be on my channel. We're going to talk about Black non-believers and where critical thinking can harm and also can provide like harm within the secular community and provide hope, because there is like where people think they're thinking critically and they're not, um, which that happens. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow. So I have to come. So if you want to go over to my channel at Free Thinkers Fireside, like and subscribe, totally appreciate that. Yeah, I would. I'm looking for subscribers, everybody. I'm trying to get to 500 so I can get super chats. That's basically.
I know
I'm at
you're
240 something. So
no, you're at 250. I just look. I
250.
just went to
So
get
I
the
need
link.
50 more for subscribers, and I can get the monetization. Cool. I don't get enough of my coffee to get for people to help me pay for my Streamlabs prescription. So listen, everybody, go like and subscribe just so I can like boost my algorithm up.
Do it.
That'd be great. 500. I am a basic bitch.
I know. I'm at 445 right now. I'm like so close.
This took me a year. It's like my year stream. It will be December 5th. And all of you that have been wonderful people that supported me in the community, if you've been a prior guest, you get to be on my stream, and there'll be things happening. So
Yep.
Also, I'm going to be doing a fundraiser around Christmas time for
Yeah.
Black non-believers. So I'm going to be doing that too. So I have plans to raise money for other people that I care about. Cool. Anyway, hey, AJ, what do you have? Okay, you have that coming up. What else do you have coming up? Who's going to be your show next week?
Yeah, no, that's about it. I don't think I'm gonna be on any show. Oh yeah. You know what? My brain. I'm gonna be on the Deepest Hell, which is I think it's relatively new channel, but we're
Yes.
gonna be talking about like brain stuff and the insular cortex, which is deals with like morality basically. So yeah, brain stuff as usual. My favorite. Okay. So everybody go subscribe to Helen. Help her get to 250. And thank you for hanging out in the chat and being awesome and asking questions and sending all the love.
Subscribe twice.
All
Said
right,
twice.
everybody. Yeah. I did. All right. Bye now. Goodbye.
Yeah, bye.
See you next time.